Welcome to Fowl Play, the sequel to the Nut Heist. In the Nut Heist, the adventure focused on the forces of the Kingdom of Acorna. In this installment, the adventure revolves around the Black Eastern Chipmunk Squad, known as the Becks, the Delta Force of the Chipmunk Kingdom of Doosan, and their newest member, Elgar. Sit back and enjoy the adventure, for who knows what will happen in the woods when foul play is involved. Fowl Play by Trisha M. Wilson, Episode 11. Elgar followed the group until two things stopped him. One, the forest was thinning, which told him that they were getting very close to the city. And two, he saw Perun and Jasna. Seeing the leader of the Becks and another member reminded him of Eld, and that he was supposed to be no more than an hour's distance from his campsite. By now, Eld would have given up trying to find him, and had most likely called his name many times to get him out of his hiding spot. Glancing at the group one last time, Elgar realized he would have to trust that the three adults would get them home safely. Mouthing goodbye to them all, Elgar quietly turned around and walked back toward his camp. Knowing he would have to get back, Elgar had made it a point to notice landmarks that would guide him to his camp. Once he was far enough from everyone that they would not hear nor notice him running, he began to run as quietly as possible, a harder feat than one would think. It wasn't until dark started to settle into the forest that he slowed down enough to really get a look at his surroundings. He knew that he should be getting close to his camp, but he wasn't sure where it was exactly. Deciding it would be better to walk from that point on, Elgar began to quietly work his way through the darkness. A half-hour later, he saw the light of a campfire and breathed a sigh of relief. Not only was he sure that it was his camp because he recognized the surrounding trees, but he was sure Eld had built the fire. How many other chipmunks could there be in this part of the forest? Making sure to look and see Eld before he entered the camp, he carefully made enough noise so that he would not startle Eld. Elgar may not know all about the spy business, but he did know that you never startle one, or else you might come within an inch of losing your life. As Elgar walked into camp, Eld glanced up from the fire. He said nothing. This was not what Elgar had been expecting. He decided to sit down and wait until Eld was ready to talk. Minutes passed before Eld lifted his head and looked at Elgar. The control you have shown by not saying a word speaks volumes about what you have learned so far. Before I tell you how you did, tell me what happened today. Images of everything that had gone on during the day flew through Elgar's mind. Guiding the children home, watching the rescuers run to the children's aid, seeing Jasna and Perun walking in the forest as if they were not out of place. Running back to the camp he had hidden, and then being unsure about what way to go. Realizing that much of what happened he could not tell Eld about, Elgar said, I got up this morning and found breakfast and the materials I used to hide the shelter. After I ate, I hid the shelter and then left camp. On my trek yesterday, I'd found a real good hiding spot for myself, so I decided to go there to hide. It took me some time to find the place again, but I did, and then I just got comfy and waited for you to find me. I must have dozed off not long after that because the sun was starting to go to sleep when I finally woke up and realized that I had been hiding all day. That's when I started making my way back here and found you waiting for me. Eld carefully watched Elgar as he recounted the half-true, half-made-up story. Elgar tried to keep any signs of deception from his face because he did not want Eld to know that he had not been hiding. That is a good story, and it may be even true, Eld said after looking at Elgar for several long and silent minutes. I will accept it for now, because if it isn't true, you have learned another lesson without being taught it. Never reveal the truth if it is not prudent to do so. We Becks are not the most truthful people to the outside world, but to one another we usually stay honest, but not always. Elgar only nodded in reply, determined to keep the real events of today from everyone. As to how you did in our little test, Eld continued, that answer comes in 4 parts. Part 1. How well did you forage for food, water, and other supplies and not make it obvious to the world where you were? This test you passed well. On the first stretch of my hunt for you, I was able to see where and when you gathered the different materials. But as you went, you became less sloppy, thus being harder to follow. If you continue to pay attention to your different actions, you will become a very good gatherer and continue to leave no trace behind. Part 2 of the test was choosing a proper campsite. This was one of your poorer grades because this looks like it has been a campsite in the past. Choosing sites such as these can have both good and bad repercussions. But in the future, stay away from old campsites. Tomorrow, I will show you a few better locations that I would have picked, so you can see exactly what I mean. Depending on what you learn from tomorrow's lesson, I might pass you. But tonight, you are on the fence. Thanks for the second chance, Eld, Elgar said, thinking that he should defend his choice, but deciding that it might be better not to rock the boat. He still didn't know if he had passed the other 2 tests. Part 3 was hiding your camp. This test you did wonderfully on, Eld said. You listened to everything I have said over the time we have been together and followed it to the letter. You even added some techniques I haven't seen before, and that greatly impressed me. What do you mean? Elgar asked, feeling proud at the job he had done. You cleverly hid the shelter with sticks and branches, but it was really the multiple sets of prints leaving the camp that stopped me for a while. I am not sure how you did it, but you made a one-person camp turn into a walkway for a small group. That type of detail will always make someone following you become either confused about who and how many they are chasing, and camouflage your camp because nobody would believe that so many people would be able to sleep at a camp this size. The conundrum of space and people will make them believe that they are wrong, and keep them looking for your real camp. Well done, Eld finished. Elgar swallowed the panic that had flowed through him at the mention of multiple people. Thanks. I don't know how I thought of it. It just kind of popped into my head. Eld's proud look disappeared as he started to speak again. Now to part 4. Hiding from someone who is looking for you. This test is the hardest for me to grade you on, 'cause I don't know if I believe your reason for not coming out when I called for you. On one paw, you could have been too far away from the sound of my voice, and that is why you did not come out. On another paw, you might not have been hiding at all, and that leads me to wonder exactly what you were doing all day. Silence penetrated the camp as Eld stopped speaking and looked into the fire, as if he were looking for guidance. I believe that this test will stay open for now, Eld said in a quiet voice. My job was to train you on how to survive in the wild, not on how to blend into your surroundings. That will be a job for Jasna, because it is her specialty. So for now, consider yourself the recipient of a reprieve. Sooner or later, you will have to learn the skill, but not right now. Thank you, Eld. I swear I won't let your faith in me go to waste, Elgar said, feeling relieved that he wasn't getting into trouble for not really hiding when he was supposed to. Tomorrow will come soon enough, so I'm going to sleep, Eld said, going to the shelter. Good job on your different tasks. If you continue to work hard, you will become a very good agent. Elgar nodded in response to those uplifting words and continued to sit by the fire, thankful that the day was finally over. As the 6 children and 3 adults walked out of the forest, the crowd that had gathered started to clap and cheer. In the front row of the crowd stood the children's parents, King Ulrich, Queen Lucina, Admiral Roswitha, and Tancred. At the sight of the children, the parents ran to them and gave them hugs. All the mothers had tears rolling down their faces and appeared to never want to let their children out of their sight again. The fathers held back their tears, but held them with just as much emotion. Lucina and Ulrich walked to the rescuers who were standing off to the side of the reunion and thanked them for finding the children. We were in the right place at the right time, Albin said as he shook his king's paw. Perhaps we should move the families into the palace, Roswitha suggested, noting that the parents weren't going to be done hugging the children for a long time. An excellent idea, Lucina said. Walking up to Arwell, she said, You would be more comfortable inside of the palace, where we can all sit and rest. I'm sure the children are all hungry, and I know that our cook has created some delicious dishes for them. Lucina followed the families as they slowly walked toward the palace. Ulrich waited until they were gone before he addressed the crowd. I want to thank all of you for your help the last 2 days. Without you, we might never have found the children as safe and quickly as we did. You all deserve so much more than mere words, but words are all I can give. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The crowd cheered. Holding up his paw, Ulrich waited until the crowd had quieted down before continuing to speak. As a reward for your help, the palace is going to be hosting a party on the festival grounds tomorrow night. There will be food, drinks, music, and the festival will be open later than normal. Come, bring friends, and relax knowing that you helped bring the children back to their parents. The crowd cheered again, and when they'd finally calmed down, Ulrich walked into the palace with Tancred following him. As they walked down the various halls toward a sitting room, where Lucina had undoubtedly brought the reunited families, Ulrich looked at Tancred and said, You will come into the room with me. Don't say anything to the children, but be there in case they want to say anything to you. But your majesty, this is time for the families. I would be an interloper if I came in there with you. You are coming in, and that is final, Ulrich said. I have some questions for the children. If they see you and your haggard expression along with their parents' tired faces, they might be more willing to tell us the truth. Now come. Ulrich said again as he opened the door to the room. Entering the room against his will, Tancred sat on the nearest chair to the door, prepared for a quick escape if he needed to. Ulrich walked over to Lucina, who stood against the wall and looked at the families. The parents, who were sitting beside their children on couches, which were in the middle of the room, had calmed down enough that they were no longer hugging their children every second. The children were talking freely and eating the food that was provided to them. Seeing the more relaxed atmosphere, Ulrich said, Everyone, if I could have your attention. The family stopped talking and looked at him. I am very happy that everyone is home safe and sound. I know your parents want more time alone with you, but I would like to know exactly what happened yesterday. Surely we don't need to get into this right now, Ulrich, Tesny said, looking upset that time with her children had been interrupted. There will be plenty of time to talk to the children later. I know there will, but right now their minds are freshest about what happened, and it is important that we know the story before we move on, Ulrich said reasonably. Tesny opened her mouth to further object, but Arwell said, Let it go. I, for one, want to know how they got lost in the woods. It isn't an unreasonable request. All the adults turned to look at the children. Nobody opened their mouth to start talking. So after a minute or two of silence, Ulrich said, You were at the festival with Tancred and we all kind of decided we were going to go to Arnie's special place in the forest, Rise said. So? Ulrich asked after more silence. So we came up with this idea to get away from Mr. Tancred, Arnie said reluctantly. We told him we were planning on going on the rides, and he didn't need to follow us. And then when he was out of sight, we took off to the back exit and left the festival grounds. Then, Ebby said, picking up the story, Arnie and me tried to find our special place, but we got lost, and once we were lost, we couldn't figure out how to get home again. So you just kept walking? Arwell asked. Kinda, Nesta said. We had Rise fly up to see if we could see the city, but he couldn't see anything, and that's when we really started to get scared that we were lost. And then it was dark, and the sun went to sleep, and I was sure that giants would come out and try to eat us, Adern piped in unhelpfully. Did you think about stopping and not continuing to walk? Lucina asked. No, we were sure that we could find our way if we kept walking, Arnie said. How did you decide which way to walk this morning? Ulrich asked. Oh, Elg, Vanda started to say before stopping mid-word. We guessed. We figured we had to be going the wrong way, so we turned around and went back the other way, Ebby said smoothly, covering up what Vanda was about to say. You guessed, Ulrich repeated, sounding skeptical. Yup, Rise said. Ulrich and Arwell glanced at each other with doubts in their eyes. They looked like they wanted to get more details out of the children, but Tesney wasn't going to have it. "You've gotten your information, and now it is time for these children to get some more good food in them and to go to sleep. They have had a very hard day, and I won't have you questioning them any more. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am," Ulrich said, hearing the harshness in her voice. Like good sheep being shepherded, the children left the room, followed by their hovering parents. Tancred waited until they were all gone before he said, "They tricked me." "Yes, my friend, they did. They saw your tiredness and used it against you. But don't take it too hard. It could have happened to anyone," Ulrich said comfortingly. "What bothers me is the feeling I have that they are hiding something from us." "Dear, you are thinking too hard again. What could they possibly be hiding?" Lucina asked. "They are already going to be in trouble because they left their chaperone and then got lost in the woods. What more could they have done?" Ulrich shrugged, having no answer to his wife's questions. "I don't know." "Of course you don't, because they didn't do anything else. What we all need is a good night's sleep. Tomorrow we will be continuing the conference, and if I'm not wrong, we'll be having 3 new additions at the peace table. Come," she said, looking at the men. "You both need sleep." Tancred and Ulrich glanced at each other before getting to their feet and following Lucina's command. Foul Play was written by Trisha M. Wilson and read by R.L. Ferguson. For comments or compliments, just head over to Colbyjack.net and look for our contact page. Foul Play is released under a Creative Commons non-commercial no derivatives license. Share it with whoever you want, just don't sell it or change it. Have a nice day. Foul Play is now available in ebook format from Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and Smashwords. While you're there, check out our other titles such as The Nut Heist, the prequel to Foul Play, or Nightmare, a tale of obsession and murder. Links to all her wonderful titles are available at our homepage at Colbyjack.net.